Today, on the 25th episode of the DTF Printing podcast, we're discussing unique applications for DTF printing, factors to consider before bringing DTF in-house, and the importance of introducing the younger generation to the apparel industry. Welcome to the DTF Printing podcast. I'm Adrienne Palmer, Editor-in-Chief of DTF Printing. Before we get into this episode, I would love to get your feedback. You can always email me at adrienne@dtfprinting.com for topic ideas and speaker suggestions. And don't forget to like, review, and subscribe. If this is your first time listening, be sure to check out all episodes at dtfprinting.com/podcast. On today's episode, I'm talking to Kristyn Leary, owner and operator of Origin Apparel Screen Printing in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. So you were fairly new to the apparel industry. Can you share what led you to running an apparel print shop?
So Origin Apparel has hit the 2-year mark, which I feel like is a huge accomplishment. I've learned a lot in those 2 years, even though they're tiny compared to what most people have experienced in this industry. It was COVID actually that kind of jump started the switch in career. I do have a background in public relations. I'm not an artist by any means, and I was working human resources at the resort. COVID hit, did the whole stay-at-home mom thing, and then through an acquaintance, I started very part-time. I was going to go help at this local marketing business, and ended up, I was going to fill in however they needed me to. Office manager, ended up loving it, so I put in my notice at the resort, ended up staying on, working up my hours to more full-time. Screen printing was kind of in the shop. It was kind of a no-brainer, I guess, for the shop. They would do websites, logos, and so then it was natural to be like, so do you want to print a shirt with your new business logo on it? So to kind of start at that point in time, I guess given my background, more PR, it was really awesome to kind of see that transition happen. So working there for a little while, finally, I think there was a point where he didn't want to do that anymore. So I decided that I was going to take the leap and start my own business. I was not done. I felt like I was just getting started in the industry, which come to find out, I was. I was just starting at that point. So from then, a whole world opened up of what this industry actually means, being a part of this industry. It's been really awesome.
So not only new to apparel, but I'm assuming your first business as well?
Yeah, for the most part. I think I've tried to dabble. I started Wing Mountain Ranch. I thought I was going to hatch chicks and sell chicks, and I was going to do swim coaching. I started a swim coaching business right before we left Bozeman. It definitely stopped as we moved. So I think there's entrepreneurial spirit within for sure. But yes, this is my first business. I guess that's why the 2-year mark is so exciting for me.
Yeah, that's incredible. So what are you finding is to be maybe the more challenging aspect, the business side or learning the entire print side?
I just think everything is kind of combined, right? It's I started the business without really ever having pushed a squeegee, if that gives you kind of a fun idea. I did a little bit of training as the shop was relocating and starting, but from there I did a ton of training at Made Lab, and I took full effort into going to all the trade shows, which has been really fun seeing you at those and just diving in full force to learn as much as possible on that end. And then the business end is a huge learning curve as well. I don't know that hopefully none of the learning or the toughness, the grind, I don't know that ever goes away. It's been huge. And then come to find out, which I didn't really know entering into the industry, just being a woman business owner, woman screen printer, that's kind of cool then to just be able to share and say, hey, we all can do this. We got this. Can hang with the best of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you and I met at WB Week at Made Lab last summer, and it was actually, I think, my last event in the specific screen printing space. And we were kind of talking like, oh, well, I'm leaving screen printing, and I know you're just starting in screen printing, but I'm sure I'll see you at events. And then kind of all of that I was going to say Steamboat. I have Steamboat Springs in my mind, snowballed into so many different things, because not only are we part of the Unite Together board, but I've seen you at so many different events. You're getting so much education, and now you have DTF printing in-house. So, a year later after, just meeting you, new business and really getting, your gears turning on the screen printing side, you now have DTF printing in-house. So you're really going full speed ahead in the apparel space.
Hey, it's funny. It doesn't seem like that. It just seems all organic on my end. I taking on the DTF has been amazing. Bringing it in house, in the sense of we are actually using both quite a bit, screen printing and DTF. And I was joking with Vic even from Arcus. So we have the Arcus in-house, and just laughing, like, if you build it, they will come, which business, believe it or not, the stuff that we can print on the DTF is not more than I thought it was going to be, because I had already knew, like, it has a place for sure. It's aesthetic peel. It has its place on certain garments, but we've used it a ton in this short period of time. And I know it'll just continue to grow.
What led you to even bringing DTF in-house? Because it can be a big jump for people who are screen printing, either bringing that in-house or outsourcing transfers or outsourcing entirely. What made you decide we're going to bring equipment in-house?
I've heard that. I think part of that may be just like the unknown. So you're definitely like stepping out of your comfort zone of what you're used to, maybe even what you love. We've done our fair share of orders from Howard Custom Transfers or Supacolor. So we were doing that for a while. And in fact, there were some times where I would overnight a shipment, which is very expensive, especially getting to Steamboat, just because of wanting to go that extra mile for a client. So it was a DTF print that we would put on, and I think one of the ones we did previously was for hockey jerseys. Hockey's pretty huge here. The DTF actually printing has been awesome to put on jerseys for apparel decoration. I don't know if it was so much of a jump in. I feel like everything in this industry, everyone is so open, so connected. There's like such amazing relationships and people in this industry. Since the beginning, I feel so much a part of the entire industry with big open arms. So some of it was connection based, and that's kind of how we went down, having the direct to film in house. And then some of it just was really a no-brainer. We were already doing it. And so in order to speed up production or to get orders faster, if someone walks in, which they did the other day, we sampled something. We just did a few, which we have the ability to do that now. And now we're doing a large print for them. So it's definitely has its place. I've learned a ton from having it in-house. I definitely have gotten out of my comfort zone. It's different learning the DTF, given I guess that it's more digitally it's more digital, it's more engineering than working with ink. And I say that not because there is autos in the screen print industry, but so getting out of your comfort zone really and just kind of taking it on was, maybe it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Well, you brought up one good point, and there's a lot of different factors as to why someone might consider bringing DTF in-house, but you're saying turnaround time. was big for you. Maybe it's hard to ship in and out of your more rural area. And so instead of having to wait for transfers to come in or feel like, oh, it's going to be way longer than I can even, get these transfers printed myself, it makes more sense to buy that, because we hear all the time, well, it's either the cost of transfers I'm spending on in a month, or I'm actually really like technically savvy, so I think I can handle the digital printer like maintenance myself, or I have a really good customer service team with this vendor and I know that I can work well with them. But for you, like turnaround time seems to be like that was a big reason for you, instead of having to buy transfers or outsourcing that part of it.
I think it's all of the above. I think it's everything you said, really. I mean, Arcus, it has been amazing customer service. Those guys, I called Vic earlier today from Arcus to talk to him on marketing side training. He was there actually for the install training in Steamboat with us. There was 3 guys from the team actually there for install, and it was just fun. It was super personable. I do feel like I can pick up the phone at any point or shoot a text, which I have been known to do, like, hey, we're having trouble with this. Help? Because like this needs to get done. Isn't the joke in the industry like yesterday was meaning deadline? So and they've been huge support. They've been right there every step of the way. So that definitely makes a difference. Because even for me, I'm not necessarily like IT minded, so not that engineering side. So there's definitely things where I've needed support because I don't have that magic touch. So having that and then learning, it was, I think being so fresh too, and just learning the screen printing and the finesse of that and messing up and making so many mistakes, which I actually encourage. I feel like that's how we learn. If someone makes a mistake on the team, it's like, please tell me, don't push this under the rug. Like we'll work through this and you'll come out better on the other side. I've had to kind of take that almost back from the beginning, where you're learning a new, I mean, do I dare call it like a substrate? You're learning a new, help me out with this word. It's a new technique. You're learning a new
new.
Well,
I mean, you're learning new everything because it's so new to you, but a new process, a new technique.
So that patience is involved. It can be frustrating. I think everyone who's listening who is like on the fence, just go for it, right? Like you're gonna learn. You're gonna start in a fresh place, and you're only gonna get better. It's funny too, because like I'm one, I'll notice all the small details. I was so bad today. I ran into a friend and I could tell like the design on her hat was crooked. I should not have pointed it out to her because now she's like, oh shoot, this is crooked on my hat. I can't wear this. But you notice all those fine details. Most people aren't going to. So just taking the stab at it and getting better, I think, is one thing I've taken a lot of pride in.
Yeah, that's so funny. I think anyone in the apparel space, they're wherever they are, they're checking, who is this Blake apparel provider, or let me check, is this DTF or screen printing? Everyone's like really always digging in. And at the end of the day, not every customer is going to be as detail oriented as that, but that's what apparel providers want to do. They want to have the best quality print. And I think that's super important. At the end of the day, whether the customer sees it or not, it's best to do your best on that realm.
And of course, hopefully they'll say something. Just let us know. We'll fix it as a shop and a shop owner. You had mentioned being rural, Steamboat. We are kind of out of the way. I just really thrive on always having open communication. Always just say it like it is. If there's something that we can fix, absolutely, we will do it. And it'll benefit you. It'll benefit us. We're learning. And I think even being in the rural area, relationships are key. So having that and just making sure that everyone's happy, and we're all people. I think not separating the job and our life aspect combining the two, right? Like we're people, we can be friends. We got this. At the end of the day, we'll come together and figure it out. We're here for each other.
Do you have a lot of competition in the area?
So there is screen printing in this area, which I love. In fact, I want to get in touch and geek out. I haven't been able to. I wouldn't say competition because I feel like we're all doing our own thing. We're all really good at something different, even though it is like the same apparel decoration space. We've got Ohana. So Emily, the owner, she's doing her own. She's a designer. So she does like all the design, and her husband is on the printing side. There's Chaos, which it's like an hour. How far away is it? So they're in Craig, 45 minutes, something like that away from here. And I mean, those guys are killing it. They've been doing this for 10 plus years, which I think is I'm feeling like I've met a lot of people that have been in the industry for 10 plus years. So they've definitely got their rhythm down. I think it's cool though. I think one of the things that I've been passionate about, so like a passion project that I would love to ultimately take on and in its little baby steps, is bringing it into the schools and really teaching our youth that there is a whole industry. This exists, and even if you don't want to go in and be a screen printer or a shop owner, you can go in and be like editor of the magazine, like or sales side. You can go on the chemical side. There really is something for everyone in this industry. So I think that with having a couple other print shops close by, there's a lot of space for that kind of growth and education.
Absolutely. And that's part of one of our missions with Unite Together, which we are very much involved in. It's really showing the younger generation that there is a career path for them in printing. And as you mentioned, that could be in so many different ways: sales, marketing, actually printing, the business side. I mean, yeah, you mentioned, editor-in-chief of a magazine. I didn't know anything about the print industry a decade ago, and now it's all I know. So but I definitely did not know anything about it in grade school, high school, or college. And so to show the younger generation that there are so many different ways, because I think, with all of the print processes, no matter what, there is still an artistry to that. And there's so much of the finessing of artwork. So you could be a designer, you could be a printer, you can be the owner, you can do all of them, which we've talked about before. Like when you're the business owner, you're pretty much doing everything, or you're hopefully hiring people who can do it better than you can.
And yet there's a team. Like I honestly think that the screen print industry, I can't rave enough. I know like at some point 10 years down, people think, oh, you will stop. This won't be always the case. But it's this really big team of people and friendship and community in this industry that we are all here to support each other. And, Brian and I said it, even working with like Arcus and Axiom, it's a win-win when we come together and we support one another. And that is all that I've even felt in this industry. So the feeling of not being alone, I'm sure, I think you can attest to that. I think you feel that. I don't want to put words in your mouth as well. It feels like a team, right? Of us all.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even just, we met at an event and got along so well. And then we were having conversations that developed into working together with Unite Together. But then at Impressions Long Beach, you were thinking of me and you thought, oh, I really want to introduce you to Arcus, as, I'm building DTF printing, of course, looking for all different types of vendors and manufacturers in the space so that I can promote their products and get that out to an audience to make sure that they're aware of all the different equipment and inks and techniques in the DTF space. And so, I mean, that connection stemmed from, just meeting at an event. And I think it's like those are the connections and the network and the team that you're mentioning, because without those little moments or those little connections, you never know what's going to happen. And luckily, in this case, we've been able to work together in so many different ways. And I think that, people go to events and trade shows maybe for the education aspect or maybe to like learn about new equipment. But the networking is so important because that's where all these connections happen. And that's, I think, how you're really growing your business, because like you said, everyone wants to share so much information in this industry, like can't get enough of it. So yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with what you're saying.
Like we all just kind of want to geek out on it. I know I will geek out with anyone at any point about it. Yeah, all day long. It never gets old. It's true though. Yeah, there's a lot of people in this industry that are completely open arms, and definitely there if you have a question to ask. I mean, I'm finding that now. I feel fortunate with working with Arcus because from the beginning, I mean, it was like a couple days of training and install. And I mean, I think that's huge coming into Steamboat, such a rural area, and that piece, and then staying connected, asking questions, text. And it doesn't even, it's screen printing side, and now I found it in the DTF side. It feels like family. You guys talking, I was joking with Vic. I was like, okay, when I see you next, we'll go out to happy hour.
Yeah, of course. Everyone becomes friends and family. Yeah, so on the DTF side, obviously you found a vendor that came out, helped you set up the machine, there for a couple of days, really good communication. But I'm sure it's not just all easy breezy. What have been some of the challenges bringing on this new technology?
Oh, it's a huge learning curve. Yeah. And I shouldn't say huge because I don't want to deter anyone by any means from taking it in-house. I've really I think I just fully plunged in and really wanting to get the groundwork, because then I do have the screen print side, and there is so much, for example, on that side of like a blocker and those kind of things that I'm aware of. And then making all this all these questions and bringing all this previous education that I have now into this kind of, is substrate is that the right word?
I know, why can't we think of this word that we're
I don't know. I just hope
substrate,
I didn't see that right,
is like what you're printing on.
I'm trying to think of some of the what do I do now? Like I've had many of those. Like, okay. Let me. I know. Okay, so here's a good example off the top of my head. There's so many. So I guess I should say now that if anyone wants to talk offline off this, Adrian, you know me, I'm so open and happy to connect with anyone, even if it's a small question or even if it's like, hey, we have an Arcus too, or whatever. There was one point that we were printing, and the printer lays down the color first and then the white on top. And so the color was coming out, and then the white print on top was not lined up at all. It wasn't underneath. It was completely off. So the white is showing out from the design where it shouldn't be. So that was like an instant I have no idea. I took all these notes in training or whatever. I still what? I don't know the answer to this. I'm so bad that I'll just really pick up the phone. I'd rather talk to someone than read online. That's just part of my nature. So I did. I called and I got help, and it was just this instant oh, you push this button. And sure enough, the down button on the machine, it's called I was so bad. I don't even remember what it's called. It has a name. It fixed it. So it took a second to adjust, but I didn't have to go through a huge, I don't know. I didn't have to go into the software. I didn't have to do much. It was just a quick, simple fix, even though, if you're on production on the screen press, then you're having to move the screen. I mean, same thing, because that stuff happens screen print side too. So in that realm, it's similar. I think having the screen print background and then bringing in the DTF in-house, I had some lay for what was going on already. So that's helped with some stuff for sure.
Right. And then in terms of making that decision between screen printing and DTF, how are you doing that? Is it based on quantity? Is it based on color count?
Good question. So I think a lot of it can depend on garment, because we've done a one color on the DTF, which we've also done. I wish I had. I have really awesome examples at the shop, and I'm not there. But we've done it for. So we're about to put on floor here at some point, maybe fall, some kind of retail stuff that we're dabbling in just because we're having fun and love it so much. But an artist, a local artist, Sarah Kaplan, so she's done this watercolor design. So that was one where we were able to take this gorgeous watercolor design and put it on like an AS Color sweatshirt, full front, huge design, full color, picks up all those, when the watercolor like smudges kind of into another color. That's kind of a no-brainer. I will say you really want to watch what you're putting it on because it does have a different feel. So I know that's like a huge thing, especially when you're a water-based focused shop. That's a very specific feel versus the feel of the DTF. So that's just something to be mindful of. But we've done, I'm trying to think, I do a lot of printing for hats. That's a huge thing where maybe before I would only be like, well, embroidery, right? But now we can do the DTF. In fact, we've played around with it so that the DTF it goes over the seam seamlessly. It's unbelievable to me how well that has looked since we've started printing in-house. There was this one print that it was full color. So like stalls, you can get patches that are, I think it's like up to 6 colors. And this particular one, I think was like 8 or 9. So it was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that we can't go that route. So I just decided, because it was kind of like a rush order, we just printed DTF right there in-house here we go. We're touching on the turnaround. It is easy. I don't want to say easier because you still need to schedule production time. You still need to run it through the machine. You're still cutting out the designs, which, from Supacolor, if you're not getting a gang sheet, they're already doing that for you. So you do have to schedule it appropriately. But we pulled that off. We used the DTF, which I think for us, for our shop, it just really depends on the look that you're going for. There's some other factors. Like I think, okay, I am gonna say this, I think, because I do think it's part of the industry. You really just have to there's so much like Macgyvering, is that in this industry?
Yeah,
have you heard
absolutely.
that before?
Oh yeah. Yeah, troubleshooting, Macgyvering, yeah, figuring it out on the spot.
I mean, holy cow, the Macgyvering that happens in this industry. Like I thought I wasn't a Macgyver worthy, and I'm slowly learning. But there was this certain color that we were wanting to hit for this certain project, and so we ended up actually doing a DTF screen print on some garments, and I really want to do more with that. I think that there's some really cool things that can come out of that. That we ended up doing. So it was like on the fly, right? It wasn't necessarily the way that production was set to go from the beginning, but we were kind of able to last minute with it being in-house. Oh, okay. No, I think let's take it this round, this way. And so we did.
So when you say DTF and screen printing, do you mean just placement of the shirt? Like if you're going to DTF the sleeve, but the front of the shirt is going to be screen printed, or what do you mean exactly by utilizing both of those processes?
It was actually part of the same design. So it wasn't a separate design. And that you say that too, there's this one design coming up where our client wants different placements, and this particular logo has some extreme fine detail, which is great. It's totally pull-offable. That's a word. With, a 200, 230 mesh, higher mesh count to capture these small details. My mind even goes, though, hey, like, actually, what if we kind of what, I don't know why this is like causing me so much trouble today. Take DTF and take screen printing and mesh together on one t-shirt. That actually is probably in the near future for us to do something like that as well. So this one particular design wasn't. It was all on the front. Really cool. So with the DTF, when you're doing finer, I guess, design prints, you really don't you don't have that feel. It really is so soft to the feel, especially if it's so fine. You don't even really notice the difference between the DTF and the screen print. Now, these were on cotton, which I also feel like across the board makes a difference. Fabric-wise, cotton's always great to print on. But it was kind of cool because I wouldn't put the DTF on everything. It definitely has its place for sure. And it definitely has its own like aesthetic appeal, just like a heavy plastisol. I can't believe I'm saying this. Let's say just plastisol print and water-based print. I think even we used to do some stuff with vinyl. Well, vinyl's out for sure now. I really haven't done much with vinyl since we've taken the DTF in-house. That is definitely replaced. Even Arcus has, which we've talked about here, they have a printer that prints stickers. So those sticker, and Brian, hopefully, and Vic, I'm not like botching this up. Call them if you're curious, whoever about this, to ask more questions. But we can print on this printer, the Guinea agree.
Yeah.
That then we can take and we can do, instead of what we've done in the past, vinyl on doors, we can put this sticker that prints like a DTF and use that instead. Or water bottles, or I'm trying to think, signs. That's actually something that has come up recently with what we're doing. We now have that capability to, I guess, take on more projects like that, which we did do a heavy project. We printed the DTF and we actually put the DTF logos, wording on tents for Main Street for their farmers market. So, I mean, projects like that where we wouldn't, I wouldn't touch that. I know some people, I've heard from friends like, oh, just do the ASI, just do, go through that route, and the tent can be, come through promotional that way. Just the possibility of knowing that it's an option to print on the DTF, which we did that on the machine that we have versus the one that I was talking about. But that was cool. And then to see it out at the farmer's market, that was kind of a fun project that we took on.
Yeah, it seems like there are a lot of different options for you. It's not just standard t-shirt or hat. Are your customers involved in any of this decision making, or do they care? I guess really, who are your biggest customers? I mean, you mentioned hockey teams, for example, so you are able to utilize DTF there because it's more of an athletic wear. I'm assuming some type of polyester. And you mentioned you offer a lot of different hats. You may be going into retail, but who would be your biggest customer, and are they involved in what the printing process looks like?
It's a mix. I mean, even we're talking about kind of starting to help out for Stampede, which is our local youth hockey, and kind of be able to have the ability to be there and set up for tournaments and have some just like really cool merch for our families, and then all the other mountain families, or even Denver comes up tournaments, and print some stuff kind of on the spot without already having it placement on the t-shirt. So that's an exciting opportunity here that hopefully I'm not speaking before, but here I'm speaking before this is happening. But I think education is important, to educate the client on the differences and get an idea of, hey, what is it that you're looking for? What do you want to go for? We did this live print at the farmer's market for Emerald Coffee. It's kind of like they have happy hour coffee pastry shop here in town. And I did a sample print ahead of time on the DTF because I knew I could just do like a one print on the fly, stick it on the t-shirt. They could get an idea of what the design was going to look like. It wasn't in the screen print side. The screen print side, though, you have the whole like, okay, let's burn the screen and set up the screen and let's print one and then clean the ink. Like I wasn't going to go through that ahead of time. But even just showing her, like, because she had asked, she's like, oh, so is that screen print? And it was, no, it's not. It's actually direct to film. I think without knowing, you really don't know until kind of you're in that learning space, or you know kind of what something is good for, or suggestions. And at the end of the day, it is the client's decision, but we know so much more in the shop and can educate, I guess, so much more. So we mostly do.
Yeah.
I guess to answer your question, we will make the suggestion. Hey, I think that this is a good option. So being able to have the DTF and screen printing in-house has given that flexibility, really, to be able to communicate that to the clients and even show it super easily, like this one with the same design. It's cool that they couldn't even really tell the difference.
Even tried and true apparel decorators are having trouble discerning between screen printing and DTF. So it's kind of cool figuring that out, and it's kind of a little like test. But sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference, especially just like looking at a shirt. But I think what you said also is like important about educating your customers is key. How big is your shop? How many employees do you have?
So we have about 1,000 square feet. So the front room actually, so we're located downtown, which is, we weren't originally gonna do retail. I guess it's always been kind of a passion of mine. So the front is like 300, maybe it's 100 square foot that we're going to be able to put some stuff in there. Being in Steamboat. So here we go. Here's the rural piece is there's a lot of turnover with staffing. Bringing in the youngers I've found in high school, if it has been awesome because they have stability. They live here. Because most of the time it's, there's a lot of seasonal turnover. Even we've experienced college at the college level, just kind of here and then, so kind of some turnover with that. So we kind of have done various trials, as you will, of bringing on some people. And I will say a lot of what we do right now is heavily on me, making sure that production goes smoothly. I think, again, that's where we sit with having a small shop, is getting started. This is the business side that you were talking about. Open to all and any advice anyone wants to present as far as that goes. That's a whole different rabbit hole. But yeah, and training staff, that takes a lot of time, especially we're still on a manual press at the moment. We have our eyes on rock. We're going to be going that direction for autos. So it's been a huge learning curve on the business side as far as staffing goes here in Steamboat, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. But you did mention, bringing in younger students. And so do you think that there's a possibility for summer interns or bringing someone in from high school level and hoping that they stay?
So a friend's daughter is going into high school next year. So she's coming on board. And actually, I think that I had mentioned to you, I was teaching her DTF side first, actually. Not even the screen printing side, although I've seen her eye it like, I want over there too, which it'll come. She's loved it. In fact, she came in on that tent project with us, and that was a 2-person job. So I think she had a blast. It was an awesome introduction to what we're capable in the space as far as offering for guess not even, I can't even say apparel, like just decoration space. So yes, that's what I found is I'm going for kind of more high school help.
What is easier to train, DTF printing or screen printing?
So I think, okay, quick answer, DTF, 100%. Is that, yeah, hands down. If you're looking at bringing someone that is seasonal, for example, because there is so much seasonality, a lot of people come in and go here in Steamboat. It's a tougher place to live full time. DTF. And there's a learning curve with that. There's tools, right? Like I think that's the other thing to emphasize too is the tools that you want to have to be able to, just like we do on the screen print side. So we have the registration marks, for example. We have all the ways that we can pre-line up the screen when we are getting started, even at the exposure point. So then bringing on same tools, which is fascinating to get to watch somebody, even sometimes Macgyver. I can't believe I'm saying that either, but it's true. Macgyver, how the transfer goes on the T-shirt as you're heat pressing it to make sure that it is centered and it is exactly where you want it, so that it's not crooked like my girlfriend's hat. I feel so bad for telling her that was a trucker hat with a DTF print on it, so it's not crooked. But yeah.
Do you find DTF placement to be tricky at all, especially when you are heat pressing onto a hat, or do you feel like with your hat press it's like pretty steady? Are you using a hat? I'm assuming you're using a hat press if you have so much hat work, but even, I don't know, is the placement ever problematic for you, or do you feel like it's steady now that you've had all of that in-house for a while?
I always want it to be perfect. So of course me, like I always look at everything through fresh eyes. We have those Hottronics through stalls, which are awesome. If anyone is, looking or wants to, I'd even recommend having 2 of the heat press, because when you're flashing something, you're flashing it for, the 3 seconds. And then, you're heat pressing and they're all different. So you have the hot peel, the cold peel. So, I won't even necessarily get into all that. So then you're pressing for, let's say, the 15 seconds. And then afterwards, we always post press even for the 5 seconds with one of those Teflon sheets on. So depending on your size of shop, that could be that could streamline stuff to have 2 of the same machine.
Right. Yeah. Now there's automated heat presses coming out and carousels. And I mean, there's the sky's the limit on what is going to be available to people to really streamline the heat pressing process, because that is probably like a little bit of a bottleneck for some shops, especially if they have just one heat press machine. And now that there more and more printers are even DTFing for, now we're really making up things, DTF printing, large orders. Right now it's like a lot of people were starting out with just doing, 30 shirts and under, or 10 shirts or 5 shirts or whatever, and then screen printing the rest. And now I'm hearing a lot of people are just like, it's 100, 200 or like shirt order, I'm actually just going to DTF that because of like the color count or whatever. But then they're stuck kind of heat pressing all of those. And so with one, it can maybe take a little bit more time.
Yeah, I don't think you save time. I mean, I do think like the DTF print, of course, it all depends on the setup and how you do your production days. It's not necessarily quicker. So, for anyone having questions about that, do I go screen print side? So there's that. So it makes me, as we're talking, it makes me think of Stampinator too. They were killing it at that last show that we were at. They did like 400 an hour or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, that's an option when you start getting into those bigger numbers. Really, that makes a lot more sense, because putting on the shirt, lining it up, taking it off, and then it takes time.
Right. Yeah. Do you have any other tips for screen printers or anyone who's not even in the industry like you once were who are considering bringing DTF in-house?
I think that the learning curve is definitely different. And I think if you are looking at doing apparel decoration, and let's say someone has been ordering them from somewhere and yet still taking those ordered transfers, apparel decoration for, let's say they're creating a brand or similar business and they haven't had it in-house, I think that having it in-house, being able to learn it, being able to, I know we've had the lovely option of just having a lot of training and ability to have lots of phone calls, just having that at your fingertips. I know I've called Howard Custom Transfers. They're amazing customer service as well. You start to look at it a little different, I think, when it's in-house. You can see it differently, you feel it differently, you kind of know. So like the only thing I can relate that to even is like I didn't even put a thought to how designs got onto a t-shirt before I just stumbled upon this industry, and then it's like, oh wow, that's how it works, that's how you do it. So I think that once you get into that space and you really start to feel it and have patience, like honestly, I'm one for like mess up, like have a little bit of trouble, like be in this moment of like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what to do right now. I have no idea what's happening, and like, and then figure it out. So I think, having that mindset really, getting out of your comfort zone and knowing that it's going to, I think in the long run, allow for better ability for design in the long term is kind of been a huge and fun learning curve on my end, bringing it in-house. So sharing that as with someone else who's thinking about bringing it in. And if you, and like you said, I remember you had mentioned like it doesn't matter, I think, size of the shop. So it can be a big shop, it can be a small shop. It's really a personal choice whether you feel like you are ready or you want to bring it in-house. So I don't, I don't think necessarily, I guess that's not the way to look at it either, as far as how much production you're doing. I think that if someone's interested in the financial side of it, there is the markup is definitely there. Obviously it is there too if you're ordering the transfers, but just knowing the square footage and even just learning more about how that works. Before I had the DTF, I didn't put much thought to, hey, how can we manipulate this design to utilize as much space as possible? So not only it helps us with production, because when you run that machine, you really want to stagger and put as much in there as possible. I really am not one to see that paper go through waste. I have tried and tried. How do I not waste anything at all? And use all the space. So you kind of have that knowledge too, more so when you're hands-on, that I never had before. And then also for the tents, a learning like something cool, bringing it in-house was there's different size machines, so different paper size. So some machines that are bigger, you're able to do more kind of design with than ours is the 14. We were able to manipulate the design so that we can piece together and make a bigger design than what we really have the ability to print. So being able to play with that as well. I know some like the oversized shirts designs, so you can even do stuff like that if you're wanting to experiment with it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's such a fun part of this is that you can experiment. And also you mentioned, it really doesn't matter what size shop you are because you can have a DTF printer in your living room. You could have a DTF printer in your facility that's running 5 automatic screen printing presses. So, I mean, I think that is what is also cool about this. You can be small to mid-size to large business and still capitalize on DTF printing.
I'm excited to see Jed's face.
Yes,
Speaking of which.
Yes. Yes. So Jed Seifert, who was episode, I want to say 20 of the DTF Printing podcast. He is at Stakes Manufacturing. And if you attend Print Hustlers, you'll be getting a tour of his massive facility in Eastlake, Ohio, near Cleveland. And he has, I think, 16 DTF printers. So check out that podcast episode to learn about what Jed is doing at Stakes Manufacturing. And then, go to Print Hustlers and make sure you get the facility tour because that is definitely one to see.
Yeah, don't miss out on that. Man, that's going to be a really good one.
Actually, it's like a good wrap up to my last final question. You've been to so many events, especially just, in your short time in the apparel industry. I'm sure you've garnered so much information. What is the biggest thing you've learned so far?
I just like being a part of the industry. I really enjoy the connections and through that, the education that comes with the connections and the mindset of if we don't know, if we don't have an answer, well, let's figure it out because we can. That's even a life experience too that we're trying to really teach in our shop is what we do in the apparel decoration space really makes for a better person outside of the space. And I don't like saying it that way too because it's one life. It's our, it's a lifestyle. I do not like separating job from work. I really want, that seamless kind of lifestyle living experience. I would say though I can't get enough. Is that fair?
Totally fair. I can't get enough either. So we're in the same boat.
We're all in this. Like I don't know any of us are going anywhere. Once you drink the Kool-Aid or something, that's it.
Yes, we have drank the apparel decoration Kool-Aid. That is for sure. Yeah.
We have.
Cool, Kristyn. I appreciate you getting on the podcast. I can't wait to see you at the next event and work with you, on Unite Together, all the fun stuff that we're doing there for the industry. And I can't wait to see what new things you do and what different applications you utilize DTF with. So thanks so much for joining the podcast.
I'll keep you in the loop. Absolutely. Adrienne, thanks so much. This has been a treat. Thank you. Happy to be here.
You can find Origin Apparel Screen Printing at originsteamboat.com and on Instagram. We'll catch you on the next episode of the DTF Printing Podcast. In the meantime, head to DTFprinting.com to discover new ways to grow your DTF print business. Thanks for listening.